All right, I want to talk about Terry Moran today. So Terry Moran is a longtime ABC News correspondent. He's covered the White House. He interviewed Trump. He's done all sorts of things. And unfortunately for him, very early Sunday morning, 12:06 a.m. Sunday morning, Terry Moran decided to go on X and offer up some thoughts about Stephen Miller, who is basically Donald Trump's right-hand policy guy. I'll read a little bit of it. The thing about Stephen Miller is not that he is the brains behind Trumpism. Yes, he is one of the people who conceptualizes the impulse of the Trumpist movement and translates them into policy. But that's not what it's interesting about Miller. It's not brains, it's bile. Miller is a man who is richly endowed with the capacity for hatred. He's a world-class hater. You can see this just by looking at him because you can see that his hatreds are his spiritual nourishment. He eats his hate. That, as you won't be surprised to hear, became fodder for X and the Trump administration on Sunday. And Moran was, by early afternoon on Sunday, suspended by ABC for sending that tweet. Now, the Trump folks seized on this as proof positive that, see, this is what reporters really think of us. I'll give you one example. Here's Stephen Miller, the man who was attacked. Here's his tweet about this. He said, "The most important fact about Terry's full public meltdown is what it shows about the corporate press in America. For decades, the privileged anchors and reporters narrating and gatekeeping our society have been radicals adopting a journalist pose. Terry pulled off his mask." Okay, I actually disagree with Terry Moran and Stephen Miller here. So let me just explain. Look, Terry Moran's tweet is totally inappropriate. He is ostensibly an independent journalist, right? He is not a member of the partisan media, right? He is not someone who's always going to say Donald Trump is bad or going to say Donald Trump is good. That's what ABC News ostensibly, again, does. You can't, if that is the case, be someone who says things like this about a senior advisor to Donald Trump. In the same way, you can't be someone who says these things publicly about us, or privately, candidly, about a senior advisor to Joe Biden or Barack Obama or George W. Bush. It's inappropriate. It seems very clear that Terry Moran does not like Stephen Miller and thinks Stephen Miller is a bad person who eats hate for a living, which seems terrible. And you can't have that. So I don't know if Terry will lose his job over this. As someone who lost his job in journalism, I never call for people to lose their jobs. I think ABC can make a judgment on that, but it's clearly inappropriate. Terry shouldn't have done it. He absolutely knows better. And by the way, it just goes to my never go out or tweet anything after midnight, especially on the weekend. But nothing good ever comes of it. You're never like, man, I'm really glad I sent that tweet at 12:06 a.m. on Sunday morning. Or that text or whatever, went to that bar. So that's the Terry Moran piece. I hate it for journalism, and I'm going to get to this, but I hate it for journalism because what's going to happen is exactly what happened all day Sunday and what that Stephen Miller tweet that I read you is indicative of, which is it will be seized on by Trump, by MAGA media, by conservatives as proof positive that the media really does hate all Trump people, and Terry just is an example of this. And I would say that's not true, right? In the same way that you can't take some bad apple in the Trump administration who says or does something really bad and say, see, that's all of them. I always think that's a mistake. Liberals do that all the time. See, this person posted something that's racist or anti-Semitic, therefore everyone is in the administration is racist or anti-Semitic. No, this person appears to be, at least posted that material, but the one person doesn't stand for all of us. Terry Moran, at least this outburst, doesn't stand for me. Doesn't stand for the journalists I know who are trying to be independent, who are trying to call balls and strikes no matter what uniform the batter at the plate is wearing. But his comments, and I get this, will be weaponized. They will be used against all people like me, people like Chuck Todd, people who have spent their whole lives trying to call it as fairly as possible. It will be weaponized. And so that's what I hate about it. And Terry should have been smarter than to do this. If you think it, I'm not sure you should be in journalism. At least independent media, right? Maybe you should be in partisan journalism if you really hate a senior advisor to Donald Trump that much. But I don't like that he did it, and I really don't like what's going to happen. It's already happening. The weaponization of it as an example of, see, the corporate media, they all hate us. No, we don't. I don't. I try everything I can to try to be as fair as possible. I assess ideas, people, campaign strategies, all based on not whether it's a Trump idea or a non-Trump idea or what, Republican idea, Democratic idea, but rather based on track record, context, facts, and what I know about politics. And I'm going to continue doing that. And you know, there's a lot of really good people who are going to continue doing that. And unfortunately, when Terry says what he says or tweets what he tweets, it reflects poorly on all of us, but all of us don't share that opinion. I assure you, many of us are out here doing our damnedest to be as fair and as independent as possible and to not be biased against one side or the other. There is a partisan media that does that already. We don't need more of those people. We need less of them. And that's the space I'm trying to occupy. Anyway, I feel bad for Terry. I wish he hadn't said it. Again, I'm not going to make calls about somebody's employment status, but I think it reflects poorly on journalism, which sucks because the truth of the matter is most journalists I know are absolutely working as hard as they can to get this right and to be fair. All right, everyone. If you believe in independent news creators like me, I hope you'll hit subscribe. All right, take care.